was just gonna like define like a spiritual attack. A spiritual attack, exactly. Like, how would you define it?
Yeah. How I would define it this is literally from my own point of view. It's that when Satan pokes at your innermost desires and takes them away from you in some way. So what I would say this is Satan is trying to take you from the light to the darkness, which he has the dominion over.
Yeah.
And, I would kind of liken it to a slow chipping away at your faith so that you begin relying on yourself versus relying on God. Because, Satan, he's trying to convince you you don't need God. God's a terrible father. You can count on yourself.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's pride. No, you can't rely on yourself. You have to have God.
Yeah.
When you rely only on yourself, that's pride. And so what he's doing is he's chipping away at your faith so that you only rely on yourself.
Got it. So you mentioned that you and Jen have been personally attacked through your ministry. Could you give some examples of like how you've personally been spiritually attacked in your life?
Sure. Yeah. So that's a huge can of worms or a can of snakes, however you want to look at it. But using the NFP, the Natural Family Planning, using NFP as an example. So, we began using NFP, and then we became this teaching couple, and we have been working in that ministry now actively for over 3 years. So not a long time, but, long enough. But I believe in NFP. I believe in it wholeheartedly. To the point that I wanted to be certified to teach it with my wife, and we've helped a lot of couples to discover the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So since becoming entrenched into that culture, however, we have had, I would say, this is kind of where it starts. Since getting involved in that culture, we had a third child, and that third child was unexpected. Now, we've also had a fourth who was expected, but we had this third who was unexpected. And when we conceived him, you start thinking things like, well, wait a minute, isn't NFP effective? Like, is it ineffective? No, it's not ineffective. It's just as effective. The thing is you have to remind yourself intellectually what you already know in your heart.
Yeah.
It is just as effective as the pill. It's even more effective than the condom. Contraception fails all the time. We just don't talk about that much because we have a remedy for it, which is abortion. In NFP, there's this different mindset that stuff is just taken off the table. And so that feeds into this idea of maybe it's not as effective as they say it is, and maybe this is a big conspiracy. But then you also have this idea, my wife's a teacher. Like, we're not like rolling in it. I work for the church. And so you conceive this third child and you're like, well, we never really want to have 3 kids. Can we afford 3 kids? And the answer is like, yes, we can have 3 kids. We have successfully had 3 children so far. We have successfully had 4 children. And, things are great. Like, yeah, it's stressful because they're kids. It's a very hard job being a parent.
Yeah.
But, it's great. And they're a great blessing to our family. You start then thinking, is NFP a cult? Have we bought into a cult? Oh my gosh, have we bought into a cult? No. NFP is not a cult. What we bought into was the truth about what sexuality actually is. But if you notice, so I kind of tried to walk you through this attack, and it doesn't really sound like a vicious attack, but if you notice, all those questions that I raised are about me.
Yeah.
And my doubts. They're about my doubts about the truth, and they're all irrational, and they're all selfish in some way, shape, or form. So, for instance, is NFP effective? Well, can't we just contracept and have sex whenever we want with no consequence? No, because that's a selfish idea. Can we afford 3 kids? Can't we just stop at 2 and retire young and save our money? Well, why should we have to sacrifice more than we already are, right? Well, but that's like my problem. It's all right to sacrifice. It's actually purifying to sacrifice for other people. That's what love is.
Yeah.
Is NFP a cult or is it the truth? Like, NFP is hard and being Catholic is hard. Like, you're Catholic, being Catholic is hard. And it is, but nothing worth doing has ever been easy. So, why should we just take the easy way out when you know what the truth is.
Yeah.
And the last one is, we shouldn't have to suffer like this. And, I would push back and say, well, Jesus suffered way worse than this. And but the rationale is, well, Jesus wouldn't expect us to suffer like this. Oh, yes, he would. He actually says, not only did he suffer tremendously at our expense, he also says that you're going to suffer, like pick up your cross and carry it with me. Like, yes, the burden is light, but he also says, pick up your cross.
Yeah.
And so I think when you go back through this attack in the time, you just start doubting and questioning everything, and you get divided in things. And the wife, like, we start fighting about things, but then you have to remind yourself, no, this is the truth. And all those questions that we raised, they were all selfish in nature, and they weren't turned and pointed towards God, which is where we're supposed to be focusing on.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for checking out this clip from the Practical Theism podcast. If you enjoyed this clip and you want to check out the full episode, you can do so by finding it on our YouTube channel. Definitely consider subscribing and ringing that little bell so you can continue to get updates and notifications when we release new episodes and new clips just like this one. I hope to see you soon.